with today's thought leaders, change makers, and disruptors to bring you tools, strategies, and insightful perspectives on personal and business growth, revealing both the humanness of success and challenge. My name's Sally A. Curtis from Monetize Your Content. We're a done-for-you agency that works with brilliant individuals to help them monetize their existing content. We're actually best known for turning books into 2 years' worth of social media posts. We help you to save time, maximize your assets, and become the obvious expert, sought after and sold out with a lasting legacy. And today's topic is one that's very exciting for me. We're going to be talking about exceeding limits, risk, confidence, and creativity. Now, in today's world, communication skills, emotional intelligence, and business etiquette matter. And equally, being brave enough to take more risks in order to achieve a level of success and joy is often our individual quest. But how do we actually navigate both this personally and professionally all at the same time? Now, today I have two wonderful women to share their insights with you. Nancy is an empowering leadership and professional development consultant. She's results orientated and has the skill and passion for helping individuals focus on key adjustments that result in meaningful impact and effectiveness. And Karen Ann is a risk-taking coach, author and founder of Daring to Transcend. She partners with women leaders to push beyond limits in their leadership, career and lives so they can make an extraordinary impact. So as you can tell, together these ladies share incredible wisdom and that overlaps, and we can all learn from each of them to be more personally and professionally impactful. Please help me welcome to the stage Nancy and Karen Ann.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Excited to be here.
Yes, thank you. Nice to see you, Karen.
Nice to see you too, Nancy. It's nice to meet you in person, sort of.
Isn't this such a wonderful digital space in which we can connect from all parts of the globe and come together and share wisdom and insights to help everybody else out? Thank you. What I would love to do is actually ask each of you, and I'll perhaps start with Nancy, if you can share a little bit of your backstory, just to give the audience some context as what's brought you to where you are now.
Well, I'd love to do that, Sally. And thank you for the opportunity to be on your program. It's exciting and empowering too, to be with Karen. So this is great. Let's see, Polished. Polished is a professional development and leadership practice. It focuses on soft skills, your people skills, your interpersonal skills. I like to call them your smart skills. And as we know, soft skills are critically important, not only to our personal lives, but to our professional lives. It helps us really advance in our career when we feel confident and have all the acumen that we need to succeed. And so when I started Polish, just not even almost 10 years ago, I worked in the corporate space. I had a great team. I started, like all of us as a beginner, and then grew in my career. But I noticed all throughout my career the lack of soft skills in people. And sadly, or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, when you have those lack of soft skills, those people skills, or those smart skills, you can really take a back seat to growth, right? You can have excellent technical skills, which are critically important. We need our doctors and attorneys and all kinds of professions. But if we can't articulate with self-awareness and compassion and empathy and all kinds of different skill sets that really mold into one's person, we will lag behind. So having been in leadership positions in the corporate space, I've noticed a lack of those soft skills. And so always wanting to start my business, I took the leap. And I think, Karen, you will appreciate this. I took risk. And I could say my only regret is I didn't do it sooner. So I love to advance people in their career. I love to help them see what their capabilities are, right? The limitless successes that we all have the potential to achieve. And so that's what brought me to starting Polished.
Lovely. Thank you. And Karen, if I can ask you the same question, can you share a little bit of your backstory with us, and you'll see where these ladies overlap.
Absolutely, Sally. And also, I'm really excited to be here with you and Nancy today, because obviously we all have a lot in common. And Nancy, I had similar experiences. I had a long corporate career, and I was climbing that corporate ladder, right? Climbing the corporate ladder, hopefully with some soft skills, but maybe not as many as I have now. But one day I saw sort of the goal in sight, right? To get to executive vice president, to get on the board of the company. And, it was in sight. And I thought, oh, I'm so excited. I really want to get this job, because it was sort of the culmination of everything that I had been working for all my career. But there was something inside of me that also said, but do you really want the job? And I kind of just started having this feeling like, isn't there something more? Isn't there something more for me? And isn't there a way that I can share more of my skills and talents and experiences in a way that helps, transform other people's lives? Not that I wasn't doing some of that, obviously, in my corporate job, but I just felt like I needed to expand beyond the walls of that corporate environment. And so I also took a leap. I took the risk to leave my very comfortable, well-paying corporate job and go out on my own. And, my goal was really to help women make that connection, get that dissonance that I felt, that between, okay, yes, I'm on this corporate track, and yes, I'm successful, and yes, I'm doing all the right things, and I'm getting the right things, but somehow something is missing, and there's a disconnect. And I really wanted to help women bridge that disconnect. And so I started by writing a book. It started out as a nonfiction book, but became actually a fiction book, which is my first book, Discovering Power, here behind me. Yeah. And the sequel to that is just about to come out in a couple of weeks. So I'm excited about that too.
Yeah, fantastic. I love it when we talk about our corporate career and we're talking about the ladder that we're climbing. And it's interesting, every person that I talk to that has that conversation where they've had that transformation or insight or whatever, they always talk and their hands are in that rushing mode, because we're rushing to the top and we're rushing, but we get that hinky feeling, but we're still rushing, but we get that hinky feeling. And I love that you've all both used the word more. And more is such a simple word, but it's such a broad word with meaning and depth for everybody. That element of being more or becoming more is that thing that bubbles to the surface. So I love that we've got that similarity as well. So Nancy, I'd just like to ask you a little bit more as it relates to what's the power of these soft skills?
Wow, that's a loaded question, Sally. There are oodles and gobs of power when we have this confidence, right? And that's where I like to start too, because when we have self-awareness, when we know our strengths and our challenges, and we seek out others to take that role in a team playing environment, like in the corporate space, that tells us, hey, I'm credible, I'm trustworthy, I know what I can do and what I can't do. When we can communicate if there's conflict, and you're pushing forward to get that win-win, that resolve, and when you can do that fluidly and seamlessly and respectfully, that's soft skills. So there's so many benefits and power to being able to leverage those soft skills, and use your technical skills in balance, right? You don't want to be too emotional, but at the same time, you want to be able to connect and build rapport. And when you do that, your confidence grows. And when your confidence grows, you believe in yourself more and you take more risks. And when you risk and calculated risk, so to speak, but when you have all this in common, it's just like you become I don't know, as women, and I know there's a lot of gender, and I don't want to get into this disparities among men and women in the workplace, but as women, when we see when we have the confidence of our potential and what we can do and continue to do as we climb that proverbial career ladder or go off on our own, whatever it may be, it's all in relation to our soft skills, our people skills, and how we deliver that in that respectful, kind way. So that is a long-winded answer, Sally, but I have to say, we've all met people who are very possess great soft skills and people who don't. And who do we want to interact with?
Yeah, very much so. I'm going to add to that just very quickly. And when we were talking earlier, I mentioned that I've been at conferences and how the magic happened for me waiting in the coffee addicts line. There was people in either of those lines. There was somebody behind me that wasn't wanting to engage, but the chap and I that was in front of me, I said, "Oh, is this the coffee addicts line?" And he just loved that because obviously it was a bit outside the box, and it was early in the morning, and we were there in that line for that reason. But because I was brave enough to, be a bit cheeky and be a bit naughty, and I actually wanted to talk to somebody, serendipitously, it was exactly the right person I was wanting to be at that conference to meet, or the organised person within that organisation. So to me, that was taking a risk in a line. It was being a little bit naughty, but it was being personable. And oh my gosh, that's when the magic happens. So that's to me was why I wanted to sort of talk about the soft skills, because it's those little serendipitous moments where those sorts of things really come into play. So
yeah, I met a client just sitting on the airplane, and we're best of friends now. So I can totally empathize.
Yeah, beautiful. And Karen, I'd love to ask you. And I'm going to come back to a quote that within the notes in a minute, but I'm going to want to ask you, what do you view risks as? Because some people are frightened of risks. I've got a girlfriend who doesn't like risks, whereas if someone talks to me about risks, I get goosebumps because I'm ready to go and I'm excited. So let's talk about what risks are in your world.
That's such a great question, and it's so funny because I had a guest on my YouTube show just a couple of weeks ago, and in preparation for the show, she had done all this research on what risk really meant, because she calls it taking chances. And after I talked to her, I actually looked up what she was talking about with risk. And the first definition of risk is actually putting yourself in peril, like of harm or death. It's kind of a scary definition. So in some ways, you kind of understand why people have that reaction, particularly women have that reaction to risk. And in my world, risk is not that. It's not putting you out there to risk and danger. Although I will confess that one of the reasons I talk about risk is that I used to be an aerobatic pilot. In other words, I turned airplanes upside down. And that was a little bit kind of risk. These days, I call that kind of risk reckless. So we're not talking about being reckless. But for me, risk is taking those steps outside of your comfort zone, whether they're big ones or little ones. And for me, it's interesting what both of you said about, making friends and speaking up outside of, at a conference, because for a lot of women, speaking up, particularly in relationships, even workplace relationships or personal relationships, that can be one of the biggest risks for women that I run into, is that actual, speaking up and saying what they need. And it's sad that it's so much of a risk for women, but I think in some ways it makes sense because we are so much more relationship focused a lot of times, and we don't want to upset that apple cart. But we need to rock the boat a little bit. We don't have to flip it over, but we can rock the boat a little bit in order to be more effective and get what we need and bring our skills into the world in a bigger way.
Yeah, I love that you've used the rocking the boat analogy, because I just had an insight around my own personality, which is, okay, I'm just going to rock this boat. Okay, you're not listening to me. I'm going to tip it over now, which is probably not the ideal soft skills, having a little bit of a balance in there. But I do remember through and it was around the relationship side of things that you've actually just mentioned that. So, okay, I'm rocking the boat, right? You're not listening. I'm going to tip it over, and then sort of dealing with that. But that's my, I suppose, risque personality playing out a little bit too recklessly there. So,
Well, sometimes flipping the boat over is the right answer. There's no question about it.
yeah, thank you. So one of the quotes that I actually saw was as it related to risk, and I think this actually ties nicely into the soft skills side of things. So I'd like to go down the avenue of measuring the cost of not taking risks.
Oh.
So, but for in both of your arenas, if that's possible. Now, Karen, you've just gone ooh. So, do you want to go first, and then I'll let Nancy come in?
I would love to go first because I talk about the cost of not taking risk all the time with women, and it's funny because people like really taken it back because we don't often do that. You know, when we do pros and cons, we often have our list. Okay, here's the benefits of taking risk. Here's all the things that could go wrong from taking the risk. And those are the columns we weigh. But I always tell people there's a third column, and you need to look at the third column. What's it costing you not to take the risk? You know, what's it costing you in terms of self-esteem? What's it costing you in terms of personal fulfillment? What's it costing you in terms of not getting what you want out of a relationship or out of a job or out of what you're doing? And a lot of women, I tell people, when you start to feel that anger and resentment, particularly that resentment piece, that is really a sign that you're not taking a risk that you need to take someplace in your life. Because when you're resentful, that means that you're either not getting your needs filled, or you're not speaking up, or you're allowing someone to do something that they shouldn't be doing. But when resentment hits, yeah, like being walked over. But when resentment hits, for me, that is a big cost of not taking risks. And it's a big warning sign. So I'm really passionate about measuring the cost of not taking risks. It's because people don't do it.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, thank you. That was also incredibly insightful for me. Thank you. Nancy, may I ask you to add to that?
Sure, and I have to agree with Karen. A lot of the human nature attributes of self-fulfillment, happiness, confidence, you know, these are all things that when we're doing what we do, you know, just like when we're highly motivated, we're doing what we love, right? And that motivates us to do more. When you're in a position, and often we'll be listening to that inner voice that will say, I have bills to pay, I can't start my own business, or I'm getting a bonus every quarter, why would I want to start my own business? Or what if it fails? Who will hire me? You know, those inner voice, it does such a disservice to us, because I mean, I could attest to that. You know, like Karen, I was in a great job, had a great team of people, had a great salary, all the benefits, you know, like we all do when we're feeling fulfilled in our career. But I found myself sitting in meetings after meetings after meetings, almost feeling angry. My mind would wander, and I'm like, something's wrong. There's a void here. I'm not happy. Yeah, sure, I'm comfortable, but you know, life is short, and I hate to be so cliche about it, but we only get one chance around the block, if you will, right? So why not take that risk, fulfill a goal, go after your dream? You know, the worst that could happen is, because when you do it, you're going to be smart about it, right? You're hopefully, when you do something that involves you know, long-term goals, you take measurements and precautions to make sure that it's, you know, it's going to be, if I fail or the net's not there, then I'll be okay, right? I'll get myself back up. So, you know, why listen to that inner voice and let your dreams go by, and everybody else who's doing what they want are skipping to the beat, right? And you're still going to meetings, or, you know, not just fulfilled. So I really like what you said, Karen, about, you know, listening to your body and becoming aware of, you know, why am I not happy? I have a great job. You know, is it because I have this void of entrepreneurialism, and I'm letting that inner voice take over? So I think we just have to be more mindful of really what we want.
Yeah. That beautiful. I'm going to expand on the inner guidance, the inner voice, and whatever you want to call that. particularly to call it out for those people that are listening to the show that haven't had that, I'm going to call it awakening, and I don't necessarily mean to sound highly spiritual around that, but we get those, I refer to them as Sally nags. We get those repeating patterns, and we can look back retrospectively once we've done something and go, oh, I got that reminder there, I got that reminder there, I got that lesson there, and we can look back retrospectively. But for those that are starting to feel, hear, sense that call, can I ask you to sort of call it out as to what that feels like, looks like, is described like by your audience, so we can shine the light on that and actually help people feel it, realize it, see it sooner, please?
I will jump in here. First of all, it's when you find your passion, right? Because you get out of bed, you're motivated, you've got this sense of purpose, your values, everything is aligning. Just like somebody who has this commitment. When I started my own business, and let me just be clear, I did not have a bankroll of money to fall back on. I don't want to sound like, oh, I had this great job. I did, but we have other commitments, financial commitments, and oftentimes, but so I don't want people to say, well, I can't do that if I'm just saying we have to be smart about it. We have to have, that plan B, if you will. But if you're getting this constant, if you're sitting in a meeting or sitting at a restaurant and you're getting this message that keeps coming back inside you, it's time to really evaluate what's being said. I mean, there's no like aha moment, because like I met with so many great colleagues, and finally, after meeting with a friend who is a successful entrepreneur, after 3 times, she finally said, Nancy, for Lord's sake, jump. The net will be there. Jump. And that was my aha moment. Like, okay, you're right. I could always get another job. May not be my dream job right away, but that would be a net. So I think you have to just, if you're questioning, like you're getting these thoughts that are keep recycling through your brain, then it's time to evaluate. Am I happy? Am I doing what I need to be doing? Am I afraid? Let's just kind of, whittle through this and figure out what it is that I'm intended to do.
Yeah.
What are my passion? Yeah.
Passions. And I think you used a great word there, and that's the evaluate. And we all have different ways of evaluating. Karen, you talked about your pros and cons list with the 3rd column. Mine starts with that, and then I get cranky at that, and then it'll go off into post-it notes because I'm going off down in a tangent. So I like fluidity. I love a to-do list, but I like fluidity when I'm being creative, when I'm trying to unpack something I'm unsure about. So that's sort of post-it notes that I can then cluster and work into patterns and sort of see where things are, and then that works my steps out. So I think that the word evaluate is such a strong, empowering word. As long as you don't compare your version of evaluate to somebody else's, you find your way of evaluating, because you again will sense it, you'll feel it, you'll get into flow. It'll just work. It just works itself forward, which is what I love. So Karen, can I ask you to expand on that? That where we were going with the inner voices and those sorts of things as well.
Yeah, and because I actually would love to take it in a different direction. I mean, I love what Nancy said, because we do need to evaluate, and we do need to recognize our thoughts and our patterns. But for me, one of the things that I've learned, and it's not only my learning, but I'm a little bit of a geek when it comes to reading things about quantum physics and the quantum world, right? And what we're finding in what that science is proving is that our bodies actually have a innate wisdom, and they can pick up on things that our minds don't. Right? That our minds don't pick up on. So for me, one of the big things in evaluating or understanding those feelings is understanding what's going on in your body. How does your body feel? Are you excited to get out of bed in the morning? Are you tired all the time? Do you have a knot in your stomach? Do does your voice get raspy? Do you feel drained of energy in your situation. And when you think of something else, when you vision something else, how does your body feel then? Do you feel more excited? Do you feel lighter? Do you feel more energetic? You know, what's going on in those actual physical sensations that give us so much more information than we realize. And I was talking earlier today with people about, 9/11 was earlier this week, and it's a horrible thing to talk about, but I live in the New York area, but one of the beautiful things, honestly, about that day is I heard so many stories of people who were not in the Twin Towers that day because they overslept, they missed their train, they had a gut instinct that they needed to go someplace else, that they got messages through their bodies that something was wrong and they didn't get there, and therefore they survived. And so if our bodies can be that powerful about something like that, we can also be really powerful in feeling what we need to feel about what's going on in our own lives. And it's marrying the two, right? You've got to take, you can't take your brain off of it, because you do have to eventually evaluate all of that stuff. But for me, it really starts with, how does your body feel?
Yeah.
What's going on in your body? Because that gives you so many more clues than we actually credit it for.
Yeah. I think for me, when I'm now reassessing that from that evaluation perspective, and I talked about that, I love a good to-do list, but when I'm in that, I'm not sure, and I'm needing to be creative, the fastest way for me to work with something, because to-do list is too structured, is to do the post-it notes, because that feels more creative for me. So that's that instinctive intuition that comes in of finding what works for you and feeling into that sensory scenario of that. So that's been a great conversation. Thank you very much. So when we're starting to listen to the voices, feel the intuition, all those sorts of things, from the conversations that you have with your clients, what is the habit that they do, or the thing that they do to shut that down, to sort of push it back a little bit? So let's just shine the light on that. So if people have got getting into those sort of little tricky little habits where the mind and the body are playing games with each other, can you just expand on that both in your way as well, please?
Well, I'll jump in on that and start. One of the things that I always have my clients do, and I do myself, is, and okay, I'm a writer, I will admit this, but writing things out. There's a beautiful book called The Artist's Way, and it is for artists, but it has, I recommend it for my non-artist clients too, because there's a power in some of the practices in that book. And one of them is called morning pages. So she has you write 3 pages of sort of stream of consciousness stuff every morning to kind of clear your head and get clear on that. And it's amazing to me, even for myself, I do it not every day, but almost every day. It's a really important practice for me personally. And it's amazing the things that come out, the insights that I get, maybe not in the first page, the second page, but by the time you get to the third page, there's often some really good nuggets that make that connection between your intuition, your thoughts, and what's going on. And all of a sudden, oh, wow, I didn't realize it was that, right? And so I encourage my clients to use that too, in different forms of writing. But I think for me, the morning pages are extremely powerful way to draw that out of ourselves.
Yeah,
I love that. That's awesome, Karen. I love that. I've noticed, and as I don't do it, I love one-on-one coaching, but I a lot of my business is in the corporate space or not-for-profit space, where I'm talking to groups of leaders or employees as such. And over the years, what I would say 3 things that are resonating over the years in terms of why people are held back. And I have to say, confidence, fear and that self-negative talk. And one of the things I truly say to people, and I mean this with all my heart, and sometimes people say, geez, Nancy, that's so Pollyannish. I mean, that's not going to happen to me, but it's true. If you believe in yourself, you can achieve anything. Now, within reason, right? We want to make sure we kind of specify that. But if you want to be a successful an entrepreneur, and you have the success and the passion, the drive, the motivation, the gumption, the grit, all these things, and you are going to persevere with the ups and downs, because that happens, no matter how big or small you are. And even if you're not an entrepreneur, we all have obstacles, but you build your confidence. And, speaking personally, I've had failures. And I could throw the towel in and I could say, well, that stinks. I'm not going to play anymore. Right. But then you don't, because that's how you learn. And to fail is to succeed. And so you just have to really, if it's gnawing at you, and I will tell, people this too. Don't ignore it. There is a reason. Yes, take a risk and allow yourself to make those failures, because you want them, when you set your goals, make them bite-sized. Some people are setting these lofty goals, and of course that's not going to happen overnight. But if you do those bite-sized or measurable goals, chances are you're going to get to the next level. And so I try to encourage people that, whether or not you want to go out on your own or get, climb that like career ladder, change jobs, get remarried, whatever it is, you have to believe in yourself. You can't procrastinate, and you have to stop thinking negatively. And honestly, if you can practice that, right? Everything takes practice. Soft skills are not, these are learned skills. You will succeed. And it's not Pollyannish, because I'm speaking from, just an everyday Nancy who has seen it happen.
Thank you. I'm just going to reflect back to you, Karen, because you looked as though you were having a moment where something was coming in. So do you want to add to that before I comment?
No, I just, she's 100% true about if you believe in yourself. And that often is, the biggest thing that holds people back is they don't believe in themselves. And, I have a really just short, funny story about that. When I was a kid, I was a competitive swimmer, and I was good, not great, whatever. And one week, my parents used to get, they ran the swim team, and they used to get the meet sheets for the next week, the week in advance, and take them to the coach. So I always got them first and looked at them. And I always went immediately to, who am I going to be swimming next, and can I beat them? So I would decide just by reading the meet sheet and seeing the other person's time, whether or not I was going to beat them or not. I mean, it was crazy. My mother was like, you've decided what the race is before you even get on the block. And one week there was this girl who her time was like 5 seconds faster than mine. And for whatever reason that week, I just decided, well, I'm going to beat her. And my mother was looking at me like, okay, if you make up your mind, that's what you want to do, then you're going to do it. And darn if I didn't do it. I dropped 5 seconds off of my time in 1 week, which is, it was only a little over a minute swim, which was a whole huge thing. But it was just crazy, because I decided that I could do that and I could beat her, and I believed it, and I did it. And so the power of our minds to do things, maybe even that don't even seem believable. You said that it has to be within reason, but that kind of almost wasn't in reason. It's just really incredible. So, I just really wanted to, just really
add to that. Yeah. Highlight
add to that what Nancy was saying, because it's so, so, so important.
So while we were having that conversation, probably still I've got my pen out because I've got that. I'm getting a bit excited. So I wrote down build your confidence, you build your success, you build your next steps through the power of practices, whatever those practices are for you. And I equate that building of practices to failing forward faster.
I love that.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. And we shouldn't be afraid of failing. Yes, it bruises our ego. It gives us a setback. I'm competitive too, Karen. It's funny. I'm an author. I've written a children's book, and it's about soft skills. And I'm like, why isn't this selling, right? And I've got a publisher, and it's all over the internet and whatnot. But at the same time, I look at it as it's a failure because my goals aren't matching the number of books sold. But truly, it gives you a pivot moment to say, let's try something differently. If this isn't working, there's got to be another way instead of throwing in the towel. And so that's encouragement that I think we all could benefit from. Just because it doesn't work one way doesn't mean it's not going to work another. And I tell a lot of, I like you, Karen, I really love helping women succeed. I want them to succeed. And we're our worst enemy. And often, we're afraid somebody's encroaching on our turf if we're in the corporate space or not-for-profit space, whatever it may be, or we're afraid to recommend somebody in fear that it may cost me the opportunity down the road, whatever it may be. But if you can just this whole mentality of, like you were saying, your mindset, paying it forward, believing in yourself, doing things a little differently, ding, 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 success. It will happen. It's not overnight, like we all wish, but it does happen. And, I'm a walking testament of that. And I just don't want anybody not to go out after something they've been gnawing at, or it's in their belly for so long, and then they're just squelching it. If you have that fire going, do not extinguish it. Look at that as a sign to follow your heart.
Yeah, I think those trip points or those pivot points or those, we'll call them pause points. Those pause points are actually opportunity points, because you have that setback, you have that challenge where you do stop and you reflect, and you have the, oh my God, that didn't happen, or the, whatever huff that turns into for you. But it's actually a pause point, allowing the opportunity insight to come in to what is that next step forward. So for me, those pause points or those pivots, or those it didn't quite work, or oh my God, are you crazy, when someone says something to you for the second time and then you finally heard it on the third, finally hear it on the third time. All those opportunity points for us to step into more of the celebration of who we actually are.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was thinking, as Nancy was talking, one of my favorite sayings, and I used to drive my staff crazy when I said this at work all the time, is, the definition of an insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I love that when you run across results that you're not happy with, to Nancy's point, let's not call it failure. Let's call about, these aren't the results that I want. What can I do differently? And so often we think, well, okay, I just need to do more of what I was doing. Well, maybe, but maybe not. So I always fall back on that definition of insanity. It's gotten me through some tough times, and it's gotten my staff through tough times too.
Yeah. And I like the phrase, because procrastination, I think when you're on the fence sometimes and you're biting your nails and you're wavering, like it's an old adage, but it's true. It's like, don't put off tomorrow what you could do today. And if you just put a step forward and do it, you feel so much more empowered. Like you, I'm in the midst of putting my professional book together on soft skills, but I am a procrastinator. I don't know if it's because I have too much on my plate or I'm scared or what, but it's like, Nancy, practice what you preach here, for Lord's sake, But again,
I can help you with that.
I know you can. I might be reaching out to you, Karen. But no, I believe that we all have talents. We all have gifts. And if we don't use them, we're doing a disservice to ourselves. And now, people are fine. If you want to be the status quo, that's great. If that's what's making you happy, no complaints. But if it's not, then like you were saying, Sally and Karen, it's time to kind of look inside and check yourself to see what it is that you're supposed to be doing.
I love that, because what I've also heard there is when you talk about, it didn't quite go to plan, what can I do? That question asked with the right tonation and the right care to yourself actually does open up the possibilities. And I was just reminded of a story that's happened for me recently. So for many years I've had pet ferrets. I haven't got them now, but back when I used to have pet ferrets. Sold my racehorses and went to racing ferrets. Really bizarre, really weird. If you get me on a story about the ferrets and what they used to do, I get really animated. I go really quite weird, and it's lots of fun, and I love it. So I've been told for years, Sally, why don't you bring your ferret racing into your marketing? And it's like, oh, hell no, that's way too weird. And, can't do that, couldn't do that. But over the last couple of months, there's been a few things that have actually come into play. And two people have made some comments, and I've gone, oh, that a pause point came in, and it was a hell no, are you nuts? Everyone will think I'm really weird. And then it went, oh, I really like the way you said that. Oh, I can actually see what you mean. So I'm starting to think differently. Instead of it being a hell no, it was, oh, that could be possible. Okay, just sit there, just park that one over there. And then when that possibility of, that curious, that naughtiness and all that sort of stuff comes in, you then have those 2 a.m. epiphanies. So for me, my 2 a.m. epiphany was working out, and I'm never very good at acronyms, but when an acronym lands and it happens to be exactly what your business model is, and it actually spells ferret racing, you go, okay, somebody else is onto something here. I just need to be the vessel. So, sometimes we are stubborn because we don't want to do something because of fear of perceptions. But sometimes if that's the thing that lights us up, and it is weird and it is different and it's memorable, then sometimes you just got to decide to be brave enough to bring that to the fore. And I think that's is all about asking that question about what can I do? And although the question was posed differently to me, that was my thinking, which then generated the rest of the possibilities. So yes, watch this space. You will see ferret racing coming in.
Oh, yay! I love it. I love it. I love it.
There's that you can be informative. For me, what the great land for me was, I can be informative or I can be impactful. And that was why when we started speaking today, that word of impactful was resonating so much, because there's been a little bit of a journey around that for myself. So I think the conversation has continued that inspiration. So thank you very, very much, both of you. Can I ask you for any final words or any final things that you want to say? Because I knew this would go really, really fast. And then I'd love you both to also share with people how they can best get in contact with you. So any final itchings, thoughts, things that must explode out of you to share with the audience? I'll let you go first, Nancy.
Okay.
I'm not sure who was going to go
Nancy,
first.
go ahead.
Okay. So again, this is at the risk of sounding like, I'm a fortune teller, but believe in yourself, because when you do, and how do you do that? Right, Nancy, I want to believe in myself, but by taking risks, by being bold or brave, in small little steps, you will soon develop the confidence. And I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast too, self-awareness, knowing what you're good at, right? Where your strengths are will help you in developing that self-awareness. And, sometimes we just get mired down into the day. As Karen was saying about, doing the same thing every day. And, that loses our focus. But if you can, only if you're happy, right, with your personal or professional life. You're the only one. But it all comes down to confidence. And it breaks my heart when I meet incredibly talented women and they're afraid to do a public speaking session, or they're afraid to oh, nobody will read my book, and I'm rattled by that, because why would they read mine? Why would they listen to me? It's all about how we perceive ourselves. So my final parting words is work on growing yourself, believe in yourself, because from there you will build success no matter what you are looking to achieve. And I can be reached at my email. Please email me at any time, Nancy at STL, at polish.com. Did I say that right? I'm looking at Nancy at stlpolish.com. Nancy at stlpolish.com. And my website is stlpolished.com. And thank you, Sally, for having me.
You are very, very welcome. Thank you. Over to you, Karen.
Well, I'm going to add on to what Nancy said, because obviously believing in yourself and taking those risks is really important. And when people are afraid of taking risks, the place I always tell them to start, and the place I would encourage anyone to listen to start when you're thinking about taking risk, is to get deeply, deeply connected with why you want to take that risk. What's driving that for you? Because it's usually something you love, right? Usually that why is something you love. And love overcomes fear any day of the week. So it's not just believing in yourself, but it's getting really clear and attached to your why. Why do you want to do it? Why do you love it? It's the reason, that Nancy and I left our corporate careers, because I loved writing and reading, and I wanted to share those stories in the world. And I love helping women take the risks they need to take to be fulfilled and share their gifts with the world and make an impact. Because on one hand, if you're happy and satisfied not taking risks and doing your thing, that's okay, and that's good for you. But the other question you want to ask yourself is, but who needs you? Who needs the gifts and talents that you're not using?
Well, yeah.
And that's often where you get to your why, what you love, because you have gifts and talents that the world needs. And so that's my advice.
Yeah, Karen, I love that. And I'll just add one more thing, because we are in similar, I'm a journalist by trade, so I love writing and reporting. Obviously, I've switched careers a bit, but I will say the pie is big enough. So if you're in a career where, you may feel like the competition is overwhelming, don't fret about that, because the pie is big enough. There's a slice for you, right? And you'll be just fine. So yeah, we can talk ourselves out of anything, but to Karen's point, figuring out why we want to do something will help you elevate that confidence.
Yeah, very much so. Karen, can I just ask you to add to that, and also just let people know how to contact you? And then I've just got something to add to that too. So go ahead.
Yep. And I just really quick, what I would add to that is the one thing else about taking risks and doing that is you get connected with your why, and you're brave enough to take that first step, even if it's a small, tiny step into the world. The one thing that I've seen time and time and time again is when you take that first step, the universe is going to take 10 steps towards you. So you'll have opportunities and possibilities that you wouldn't even have imagined if you hadn't taken that first step. So I will encourage people with that as well. And to get in touch with me, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Karen Ann Bulluck on LinkedIn. That's my preferred social media. Or you can connect with me at daringtotranscend.com, which is my website. And I would love to have more of a conversation about this with anybody who wants to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an incredible conversation. Thank you to both of you. The thing that just in my closing comments from there, if I look reflectively at my life, and again, just something to share with the audience, is if you keep continually getting asked for something, and you've got a repeating pattern where people ask you to help with something, there's an inner genius there that's being identified by everybody else that you're not perhaps seeing for yourself. So that's my first one. And if for me, I've always created businesses around, oh my God, I've been asked for that 3 times now. Oh, I think that might be a thing. Oh, that is a thing. Okay, go ahead. So if you're not recognizing your own inner geniuses yet, have a look back at what you're continually asked for. if you're still not sure around that, then ask some of your friends what it is. This sounds a bit weird, but ask your friends, what's the most annoying thing that I do that you wish you could do? Because usually what we're really gifted at annoys the crap out of our friends because they wish they could do it and they don't know how you do it so effortlessly, but that is your slipstream of inner genius.
Great
There's some
question.
gift in there. Yeah.
Yes.
Love that question. That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, and it is often and people when you ask it that way, people are really ready to tell you what annoy, which it sounds negative, but it's actually not. It's something that they're wishing and that they're longing for that they can't do, and the reason they have that wishing and longing is because they can see it so effortless in you, and when it's so effortless in us, we don't see it because it's just so easy. It's we don't see the glory and the benefit to others in it because it's just so easy for us. So yeah,
Awesome.
thank you very, very much, ladies. An incredible conversation around exceeding limits, taking risks, building confidence, and playing with your own personal creativity. So please reach out to these wonderful ladies as you have gathered at absolute plethora of wisdom has been shared with lots of insights. So please do reach out to them. Both are on LinkedIn. You've got their contact details going across the screen if you're watching it. And of course, they've shared their contact details if you're listening in. Again, thank you very, very much, ladies.
My pleasure.
Thank you for having us, Sally. It's been great. And nice to meet you, Nancy. It's been awesome.
Likewise. Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you all and on another episode of Success Secrets Exposed. Till then, take care or take a risk.
Yeah.